Notes for beyond the election that are useful for us all. This house and this neighborhood was built after World War II. It was part of the American housing projects, a detached house in home economics. It's as opposed to housing projects in communist countries and apartments in Europe. They did a very good job. This is the house I grew up in, and our dad was a repairman. A couple doors down was a milkman, if you remember who they were. Next door is a plumber. Up the street was a guy who worked in a feed store. I get the idea. On an average income, you could support a wife and 2.2 children in a 3-bedroom brick house on a half-acre lot. That's very much an arranged thing. It's done deliberately. Then the nightmare set in, the change of our society in the 1970s with individual rights. In this neighborhood, somebody would come in and buy a house for their child to go to school, which is just down the road. And the very act of doing that would cause housing prices to skyrocket. And if you look back in the 1970s, housing prices went up so much as $2,000 a month. Their child could live in a house to go to college, and when they graduated, they'd just sell the house, and they would make money on the deal. The very act of cashing in on it all let them make money on the deal. And then the next phase came in. They would keep the house and turn it into a rental and rent it out to people, and they would make more money. And then the next stage came in. Somebody would buy the house and build another house in the backyard. I certainly get the idea. Then somebody would come in and built across the alley behind us what looks like a 2-story apartment house, but I can't call it an apartment house. Technically, it's a house. You get the idea. They're building a slum. And where are the people who built this slum? Here in Tucson, they're living in the foothills. It was a big thing at the time. Nobody wanted people to move into the foothills, yet there are thousands of houses up there. And just like building a slum and living in those foothills, nobody seems to be able to do anything about it. The neighborhood association tried to do something about it. They went down to the city hall and to complain, but it didn't do any good. You try that. Pretend you're in city hall. Pretend you're in talking to the mayor. And what are you going to say? Look, Mr. Mayor, please. These guys are breaking all the rules. It's illegal to build apartments in this neighborhood, and they're doing it anyway. And they're doing it by intrigue. They're using the letter of the law to get around the intent. And as a matter of fact, in the most fundamental fashion, they're throwing out home economics and our whole society to begin with, the thing that made our society great. They're just cashing in on it all, and what? That's exactly right. Just to say the words out loud, this is all very left-wing stuff. This is the university professors that did this. But it's not all left-wing. The Goldwater Institute in this neighborhood had quite a hand at tearing things apart. And then you realize that the Goldwater Institute, which is considered a conservative thing, is the same group as the very liberal people who came in and built a slum, or a growing slum. Let me remind myself again, people can't afford, the prices of houses here skyrocketed, and people can't afford to live in them. So much so that you start to see a homeless camp down the road. About a year or so back, the first time I saw somebody in the sidewalk, a half a block down, bent over at the hips and on drugs. And it's turning into every stereotypical slum that you see on TV. And it's all done deliberately, and it was all done so that those people who are living in the foothills and here going to those university professors, just so they could cash in on everything. Let me point out something else. I'm feeling sorry for myself. The person you're listening to was around then, and he like the overwhelming majority of people in this country, had a chance to do just that, and they wouldn't do it. That's because there are parameters of competition, and you have to be a real scoundrel to do that, and most people just aren't capable of it. they're far more decent than that. You have to be a terribly immoral and terribly indecent person to pull that. All that said, their kids are very well off. Being satanic, being an intellectual, it just works. Now, this is a good example of our country, and it's up to you. Just because they did it didn't mean it was legal or moral. What it means is you're going to have to find somebody to stand up to them. And perhaps the best place to look is in the mirror. You're the Yank. It's time we started organizing and doing something about it.